Welcome back, peeps. It is I, Michael Merchant, your host for wild and horrid tales from over a century ago. This report comes from the Morning Herald in Titusville, Pennsylvania, November the 10th, 1870. It's in reference to the Wildman of California. A correspondent of the Ledger, writing from Grayton, California, under the date of October 16th, says, quote, I saw in your paper, a short time since, an item concerning the gorilla, which is said to have been seen in Crow Canyon and shortly after in the mountains of Osita Creek. You sneered at the idea of there being any such critters in these hills, and were I not better informed, I would sneer too, or else conclude that one of your recent prospecting parties had got lost in the wilderness and didn't have sense enough to find his way back to Terry's. I positively assure you that this gorilla, or wild man, as you choose to call it, is no myth. I know that it exists, and that there are at least two of them, having seen them both at once not a year ago. Their existence has been reported at times from the past 20 years, and I have heard it said that in early days an orangutan escaped from a ship on the southern coast. But the creatures I have seen is not that animal, and if it is, where did he get his mate? Import her as the Webfoot did their wives? Last fall, I was hunting in the mountains about 20 miles south of here, and camped 5 or 6 days in one place, as I have done every season for the past 15 years. Several times I returned to my camp after a hunt, and saw that the ashes and charred sticks from the fireplace had been scattered about. An old hunter notices such things, and very soon gets curious to know the cause. Although my bedding and traps and little stores were not disturbed, as I could see, I was anxious to learn who or what it was that so regularly visited my camp, for clearly the half-burnt sticks and cinders could not scatter themselves about. I saw no track near the camp, as the hard ground covered with dry leaves would show none. So I started on a circle around the place, and 300 yards off, in damp sand, I struck the track of a man's feet, as I suppose, bare and of immense size. Now, I was curious, sure, and resolved to lay for the barefooted visitor. I accordingly took a position on the hillside, about 60 or 70 feet from the fire, and securely hid in the bush. I waited and watched. 2 hours or more I sat there and wondered if the owner of the feet would come again, and whether he imagined what an interest he had created in Ray's inquiring mind, and finally what possessed him to be prowling about there with no shoes on. The fireplace was on my right, and the spot where I saw the track was on my left, hid by bushes. It was in this direction that my attention was mostly directed, thinking the visitor would appear there, and besides, it was easier to sit and face that way. Suddenly, I was startled by a shrill whistle, such as boys produce with 2 fingers under their tongue, and turning quickly, I ejaculated, "Good God!" as I saw the object of my solicitude standing beside my fire, erect, and looking suspiciously around. It was in the image of a man, but it could not have been human. I was never so benumbed with astonishment before. The creature, whatever it was, stood full 5 feet high and disproportionately broad and square at the shoulders, with arms of great length. The legs were very short and the body long. The head was small compared with the rest of the creature, and appeared to be set upon his shoulders without a neck. The whole was covered with dark brown and cinnamon-colored hair, quite long on some parts, that on the head standing in a shock and growing close down to the eyes like a digger's Indian. As I looked, he threw his head back and whistled again, and then stooped and grasped a stick from the fire. This he swung round and round until the fire on the end had gone out, which he repeated the maneuver. I was dumb, almost, and could only look. 15 minutes I sat and watched him as he whistled and scattered my fire about. I could easily have put a bullet through his head, but why should I kill him? Having amused himself, apparently all he desired, with my fire, he started to go, and having gone a short distance he returned and was joined by another, a female, unmistakably. When they both turned and walked past me within 20 yards where I sat, and disappeared into the bush, I could not have had a better opportunity for observing them, as they, unconscious of my presence, their only object in visiting my camp, seemed to amuse themselves with swinging lightened sticks around. I have heard this story many times since, and it has often raised an incredulous smile, but I have met one person who has seen the mysterious creatures, and a dozen who have come upon their tracks at various places between here and Pequeco Pass. I think you would agree this is an amazing account from 1870, detailing the Wildman of California. You'll note the similarities from this report and our modern-day reports of Sasquatch. The immense size of the foot, the long arms, short leg, long body, fur-covered, immensely long arms, and the curious habit that Sasquatch has of coming in close to human habitation. This next report is from 1879 and comes out of Manitoba, Free Press, Winnipeg. Two terrified hunters. Letter to the New York Sun. Two Vermont hunters, John Simmons and William Sheegan, aver that they met with a strange adventure a day or two since on the Pine Gable Peak just east of Blackton Village, about 4 miles north of North Adams. This pine-capped peak was, some years ago, the resort of wild animals, and of late it has been seldom visited. The story of the hunters is that while hunting in the vicinity of this mountain, they heard a slight noise near a rugged cliff and saw a huge, hairy object, apparently half man and half beast, spring from behind the cliff and start for the woods, running with the speed of the wind. Mistaking it for a wild animal, one of the hunters fired at it. The shot appeared to take effect in the arm, for with a scream of pain, the creature halted, tapped the wound, and turning, charged its pursuers, who, with empty guns in hand, dared not measure strength with such a foe. Dropping their guns, both sought safety in flight, and stopped only when compelled to do so for lack of ability to run further. The men say that they are positive the creature resembled a man in its general appearance. It was wild-eyed and very fierce in its disposition, judging from the short time they saw it. The hunter's story revives a long-forgotten but now distinctly recalled yarn to the effect that many years ago a lunatic, then a young man, escaped from his keepers from somewhere near the New York state line and gained the mountain fastness, where he evaded pursuit and, it is thought, subsisted on berries and the flesh of animals killed through some means best known to himself. Several years later, a strange creature, answering the description of the being recently seen, with the exception of the grizzled beard, was discovered by a party of children who were berrying on the mountain, and it is thought that this may be the same. The hunters say that they are positive that it was no optical delusion, but a genuine wild man, and a very fierce one at that. The creature's arms, they say, were long and hairy, and it looked much like a full-grown gorilla. They aver that it ran with remarkable swiftness, all the time uttering loud cries as though in pain and enraged. They declare that it was only by the utmost exertions that they escaped their pursuer, and that they say that there is not enough money in Massachusetts to hire them to again venture across its path. There is talk of organizing an armed force in Williamstown to go in search of the creature. Now, there's a couple things interesting about this. Mainly, once again, the consistencies. The drill. You can send it to a friend on social media and spread it like a virus. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, it's free. I'll have some links in the bottom bar. You can go to my Patreon account. I just recently wrote an article there that will help you have a personal encounter with the great beast known as Sasquatch. Thanks a lot for listening.